the Echo Theater has been on my mind for many years because it's where all the cool kids write. And I mean, a lot of young, hip, happening playwrights that, you know, are either native to Los Angeles or that are transplants, you know, here for TV, film, or other, you know, purposes. They've come and gone through the wonderful Echo Theater, and I have always admired the work that they do, because I think that they are very interested in young stories and queer stories and diverse stories. And I've wanted for a long time to be a part of that group. So recently, this past year, I was invited to join their writers group, and I was like, yes, I get to do it. I get to be one of the cool kids. Finally, I'm one of the cool kids. It was great.
I heard of Echo Theater Company, I would say, the summer I moved to Los Angeles from New York. I had been working as a playwright in New York for a few years, and I had an eye on California because I knew I also wanted to, you know, dive into television writing, and I knew that California was the place to be to do that. And, you know, I mean, the understanding was that you could go to California and pursue a career in television, but still find a lot of really awesome theater. And Echo was was pretty much at the close to the top of the list, if not at the top of the list of the intimate theaters that everybody recommend I check out. And, you know, they were all, you know, like the recommendations were spot on. You know, I saw really great theater there. Sheila Callahan, Boney Alvarez, and, you know, Brandon Jacobs Jenkins. Like they're, you know, Echo was putting on some really amazing top shelf productions in a really amazing intimate setting. And, you know, I would say pretty much from the first time I saw a production there, which I'm pretty sure was Bed by Sheila Callahan, I was hooked. And, you know, when they do great work, you want to be a part of them, part of the team. And I think that, you know, what all those plays have in common is that those stories were pretty bold, and they were stories that weren't being told anywhere else. The stories in question particularly were Bed by Sheila Callahan, Fixed by Boney Alvarez, and Gloria by Brandon Jacobs Jenkins, which I think that might have been the West Coast premiere of it.
I first heard about the Echo Theater a few years ago. I've been living in Los Angeles about 5 years now. I did a lot of theater in New York before I moved here, and LA theater was a little less accessible, a little like less obvious of what theaters were doing kind of interesting work. And I think I first heard about the Echo when they did the play The Wolves a few years ago, which I hadn't seen or read at the time, but I don't know her personally, Sarah DeLapp, but I have friends who do, and was very curious about it. And then through that started seeing shows there. I think the last show I saw there was the play Hand Job, which was like the fall before the pandemic started. And I just love those kind of small theaters, like 100-seat theaters that feel small and intimate. And I remember sitting in there and feeling very at home and familiar to other places that I'd worked at. And then getting involved in the lab was my friend Stephanie Ward is the director of the lab this year. And she is a director that I had known from working with in New York. And she was actually going to direct a play of mine a couple of years ago, and ended up not being able to do it. But really liking that play and just knowing my work really well. And so she asked if I wanted to be a part of this. And, you know, I was totally happy to be asked and be a part of it. More voices in the community need to be heard in the theater world. I mean, I think that's just part of this larger ongoing conversation that's been happening around diversity and inclusion and storytelling, and theaters that have been historically just run by white people telling white stories. That is, I think, changing a lot in the past year. And I think with the protests and sort of upheaval that happened this year that's accelerated the conversation. And it's just a perfect place to tell kind of unbridled, honest, messy stories that you can't really do in other venues, I think. The Echo Lab is a year-long sort of incubator where each writer works on one play, and our process was different because it was totally during the pandemic. So I got invited into the group in early March, and immediately everything started shutting down. And my friend Kiara Teak actually had a production at the Echo that had to get shut down right then, which was really like heartbreaking. So we met on Zoom throughout the entire thing. There's people in the lab who now I feel like I know pretty well that I've never met in person. So we met about once a month, once every other week, and each time a different writer would bring in a set of pages, sometimes a chunk, sometimes an entire play, and we would read them out loud and discuss them, and then throughout the course of the year, bring back pages. So I think I read 3 times total. And yeah, just getting everyone's feedback and was vital to rewriting and having people to trust and knowing they were like insightful, thoughtful people. Yeah, and then at the end of the lab, we have these public readings. So obviously they're all on Zoom this year, which is funny because in the beginning we were like, oh yeah, we're just going to be doing this Zoom thing for like a month or 2. And then of course, here we are a year later and still doing the Zoom. So it culminates in each writer getting a public reading.
The Echo Theater Lab is a really hearty and creative handful of writers whose work is not only in theater, but also in television and film. And we've been meeting monthly, going over plays and new projects that we've been working on. And I believe 3 of us are at a place where we're ready to showcase work publicly. And so my piece, California Story, is part of a little festival of showings that are going on from within the membership. And I just really love listening to these people think. It's great for me as a writer to be in a room of people who are both my age and also just a little bit above me, because it allows me to have aspirational models of like, this is who I want to be when I grow up. And these are the folks who are right ahead of me doing it, and that's really exciting because it's good to be amongst peers in that way.
I first heard about the Echo Playwriting Lab, I would say, again, when Echo was recommended to me when I had first got to LA. And I wanted to join it because I just know the value of having a group of writers that you can be accountable to and workshop your playwriting with, and to engage with. Like, it can be as valuable to hear other people's work as it can be to hear your own. I would say in many cases with this group, more valuable to hear their work because it was such an amazing, talented group of people. That's a lot of whom came from New York, but like I didn't have an opportunity to actually be in a group with. So that was fun. It was like a sort of, we'd all sort of like expatriated to LA and found ourselves in this group together. And it's been exciting. We started in the middle of, or right at the beginning of the pandemic. So it was doubly useful to have a community of writers to, just hunker down with, I would say. I've been in many different playwriting labs and writers groups. And I would say that they've all been helpful in one way or the other. And I think that the Echo Playwright Lab was super helpful because it was just a new set of writers. Like I said before, these were folks, many of whom I'd never gotten to know on such an intimate basis before. So it was really helpful to just, first and foremost, to have the structure and the deadlines that were set up by Stephanie. Stephanie did a fabulous job leading this lab. And So the accountability really helped. And it also helped to be fueled by the other writers and the energy that they were pouring into their work. It was very inspiring to see. And their feedback on the different things that I brought in to develop with them was super helpful. The intimate theaters in LA, I would say the intimate theaters in every major city in the country are super important, because oftentimes they're doing the work that requires a sense of adventure and a sense of risk and a sense of boundary breaking that really helps push the form of theater forward. I think in LA, the Echo Theater Company is a leader in that regard. They do really amazing work. Like I've said, some of the best productions I have ever seen in LA, period, came out of Echo Theater Company. So the hope is that they keep creating work and that audiences, as soon as they are able, can come back and see it and help keep theater alive.
The Echo and the Lab have helped me as a playwright. Really, the main thing is just having deadlines and a group that you're responsible to showing up for. And because I had been writing more film and TV centered stuff, it was great. But I consider myself a playwright first and foremost, and that I think will always be my sort of first love. But having a set, firm reason to write this play and knowing that people, even when it's just the handful of us meeting, it's going to be heard, and that responsibility was great. And hearing other people's plays too is incredibly informative. I feel like I learned a lot just from seeing the cool stuff that the other lab members were doing, and then kind of being like, oh, that's an interesting little thing they did there, and kind of storing that away and thinking about it in my own writing. Theaters like the Echo are so important to the cultural sort of fabric of any city. You need these sort of smaller community-oriented theaters to have a sort of interesting, diverse place to see stories told that you're not going to see in film and TV. And I think that the hard work of any sort of small nonprofit theater is getting the word out and getting people to see your shows who aren't just people who already work in theater, people who just aren't hearing about these kind of venues. And I just think has been such a big part of my life, to be able to go and sit in these rooms and hear these stories. Without it, it just feels incredibly empty and sad. So yeah, I would urge everyone to support these small theaters as much as you can.
The Echo Theater Lab has helped me as a playwright by creating a safe space of like-minded young artists that I can identify with, because they're my people. And it's just really great to be making work in a room with people who look and think and dream in ways that are similar or complementary to how I am. And I really love that. And it's been a vital and important part of my year, especially a year like this, to be able to come to a room like that and know that folks are making work and I'm not the only one typing and acting crazy. It's so vital and important, for a writer to have community. Theaters like Echo are important because they are at the ground floor of the future of the American theater. These are theaters that develop and present new American work. And without these theaters, these new plays that are dreaming the culture forward and pushing the craft towards new and exciting places would not exist. It takes theaters with the bravery and the generosity and the forward thinkingness of Echo and other theaters like that, to really take risks on new plays, put them up before audiences, give the writers and the directors and the actors and the designers the forum to explore the play through experiential learning, because a production is a chance to learn. And through that, then continue to grow the play so it can have a life after that first production. So this is a vital birthing that happens at theaters like Echo. And it's so important for people to support that, because historically, we have always been only as strong as the way we treat our artists, because our artists are our truth tellers. They are our soothsayers, and they keep us honest in our society, especially in America. They're the ones that let us know when we're off the mark culturally and when we're right ahead. And they also dream. They come up with, they are civic planners. They are the ones that identify the social ills of a society and then dream how to solve them. And if we can solve them through the imagination, then policy can be possible.